People's opinions are noise. That's all they are. Background static trying to break your focus. The world is full of people who talk, full of people who want to define you, label you, and tell you who you are supposed to be. They'll tell you what's realistic, what's too much, what's impossible. But here's the truth. Most of those voices come from people who stopped fighting for themselves a long time ago. They gave up on their own dreams, so now they want to hand you their limits. They don't even know they're doing it. They'll disguise it as advice, as concern, as love. But underneath it, it's fear. Their fear, not yours. You see, people project their own insecurities onto you. They'll say you're obsessed, when what they mean is they don't have the discipline to be consistent. They'll say you're trying too hard, when what they mean is they never tried hard enough. They'll say you've changed, when what they mean is you're growing and they're standing still. If you listen to that noise long enough, it starts to sound like truth. You start doubting yourself, questioning your path, wondering if you're doing something wrong. You start shrinking, playing small, trying to fit into the image that makes everyone else comfortable. And the more you do that, the more you lose the fire that made you different in the first place. That's how the world breaks most people. Not with failure, but with judgment. Not with pain, but with opinions. Everyone wants to be liked. Everyone wants approval. It's human nature. But if you live your life trying to satisfy everyone, you'll die never knowing who you really are. You'll end up becoming a watered-down version of yourself, shaped by other people's comfort zones. The people who talk the loudest about your life are the ones too scared to face their own. So why let them steer yours? The simple way to stop caring about what others think is to start earning your own respect. That's it. When you respect yourself, when you've done the work, when you've seen yourself go through hell and not quit, no one's opinion can touch you. You build a kind of armor that no praise and no criticism can penetrate. The reason most people care so much about others' opinions is because they haven't proven enough to themselves. They haven't built that internal foundation. They live off external validation because they've never earned internal validation. That's the trap. When you wake up every day and push yourself, not for likes, not for approval, but because you said you would, you start to see what you're capable of. You start to realize that your value isn't up for debate. It's not something people can give or take away. It's forged in sweat, repetition, and discomfort. Every rep, every early morning, every time you show up when no one's watching, that's how you silence the noise. Because the louder your actions get, the quieter the opinions become. But don't get it twisted. The noise never goes away. People will always talk. They'll doubt you, hate you, misunderstand you, and sometimes even envy you. That's the price of stepping outside the herd. But when you're locked in on your mission, when you're chasing something that actually matters, their words don't carry any weight. You start to hear them for what they really are, distractions, empty echoes from people who are too afraid to look in the mirror and face their own potential. So the next time someone tells you you're doing too much, remember, that's their limit, not yours. When they laugh, when they roll their eyes, when they question your choices, understand that they're seeing a reflection of their own fear. You can't let their noise control your volume. The only voice that should be loud in your head is your own. The voice that tells you to keep going, to push harder, to stay consistent, to stay true to what you know you're meant to be. Because the second you stop chasing approval, you start chasing purpose. And that's when everything changes. You owe yourself the truth. That's the hardest, rawest, and most important promise you can ever make to yourself. Most people go through life lying, not to others, but to themselves. They say they're trying their best, when deep down, they know they're holding back. They say they're tired, when really, they're just uncommitted. They convince themselves that comfort is happiness, that playing it safe is smart, that average is good enough. But you can't fool yourself forever. At some point, the truth catches up. It shows up in your reflection, in your regrets, in the quiet moments when you're alone and there's no noise to distract you. That's when the truth whispers. You could have done more. You owe yourself honesty about who you are, where you're weak and where you're hiding. Because every time you lie to yourself, every time you pretend you're doing everything you can when you're not, you steal from your own potential. The truth isn't comfortable. It's not supposed to be. The truth burns. It tears through your excuses and exposes every corner you've been avoiding. It forces you to confront your laziness, your fear, your lack of discipline. But that's exactly why it's powerful. The truth is the only foundation strong enough to build greatness on. You can't build a solid life on soft lies. Everyone around you thinks they know your limits. They'll tell you what's realistic, what's possible, what someone like you can or can't do. But every single one of them is guessing. They don't live in your body. They don't know your pain threshold. They don't feel the fire that wakes you up at 4 a.m. They don't hear the voice in your head that says, keep going. The only person who knows your limits is you. And even you don't know them until you've pushed past what you thought was possible. That's the real test, when you hit the wall and keep moving. That's when you find out who you are. The truth is, most people never even get close to their limits because they stop at discomfort. The second things get hard, they fold. They tell themselves it's not worth it, that maybe it wasn't meant to be. But that's just fear wearing logic's mask. Your brain wants to protect you, to keep you safe, to make you stop. But safety doesn't build strength. Comfort doesn't build character. You have to be willing to break yourself down to find out what's underneath. The truth doesn't live in easy days. It lives in the moments when you're gasping for air, when your body says no, but your mind says one more. That's when you meet the real you. Not the version that posts quotes and talks about goals, but the version that actually bleeds for them. You owe yourself the truth about your effort. You owe yourself the truth about your priorities. You say you want success, but do your actions match your words? You say you want change, but are you willing to do what it takes? Everyone wants the reward, but few want the reality that comes with earning it. The truth doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about your comfort. It only responds to work, to consistency, to sacrifice. When you start being brutally honest with yourself, when you strip away the excuses and face your reflection without filters, that's when you start to grow. The truth will break you before it builds you. It'll make you question everything you thought you were capable of. It'll make you feel small, exposed, even weak at times. But weakness is the beginning of strength. When you admit where you are, you can finally move forward. When you stop pretending to be something you're not, you can start becoming something real. That's why most people never find their potential. They're too afraid of what the truth might show them. But the truth doesn't make you weak. It frees you. It gives you clarity. It gives you control. Because once you know exactly where you stand, you can decide exactly where you're going. You owe yourself the truth every single day. Not once a year, not when it's convenient, but daily. Every time you wake up, you have a choice. Tell yourself a comforting lie or face the truth and do something about it. Lies make you feel good now, but they destroy you later. Truth hurts now, but it builds you forever. The world doesn't owe you anything, but you owe yourself honesty. That's the real deal. No shortcuts, no filters, no pretending. You owe yourself the truth because that's the only way you'll ever see what you're truly capable of becoming. Discomfort is freedom. It sounds backward, doesn't it? The world tells you that freedom means ease, that happiness means comfort, that peace means rest. But that's the biggest lie we've ever been sold. Real freedom doesn't come from comfort. It comes from knowing that you can handle whatever life throws at you. It comes from discipline. It comes from doing the hard things that most people avoid because they're chasing validation instead of strength. The truth is, most people are prisoners to comfort. They wake up and immediately reach for distractions, their phones, their social media, their routine, their excuses. They live their whole lives trying to avoid pain, avoid judgment, avoid failure. They want to be liked. They want to be seen as successful, smart, or special. But that's not freedom. That's dependence. You can't be free when your mood is controlled by someone else's opinion. You can't be free when you only move when it feels easy. You can't be free when you need constant approval just to keep going. When you stop chasing validation, something shifts inside you. You stop caring about how you look doing it, and you start caring about actually doing it. You start realizing that the work, the lonely, ugly, painful work, is what gives you peace. Because peace doesn't come from avoiding discomfort, it comes from mastering it. Every time you choose the harder path, the early morning workout, the cold shower, the honest conversation, the extra hour of focus, you're teaching yourself that you don't need the world to pat you on the back. You're building your own respect, brick by brick. Discomfort is the training ground for discipline. It's where you learn who you really are. Anyone can be motivated when things feel good. Anyone can talk big when the environment is easy. But what about when no one's watching? What about when you're exhausted, frustrated, and every part of you wants to quit? That's where discipline is built. That's where freedom starts to grow. Because the more you practice doing what's uncomfortable, the less control comfort has over you. You start to see life differently. You stop avoiding the struggle and you start chasing it. You realize that pain isn't punishment, it's progress. Every rep that burns, every failure that stings, every long night you spend grinding while others sleep, that's not suffering. That's sharpening. You're carving out the version of yourself that can't be broken by circumstances. You're developing the kind of calm that doesn't depend on perfect conditions. That's real peace, knowing that you can endure, adapt, and keep moving no matter what happens. People who chase comfort are always restless. They're always running from something, from boredom, from fear, from the truth. They need to feel good just to keep going. But people who embrace discomfort move differently. They don't need permission. They don't need the world to understand their grind. They find purpose in the process. They find satisfaction in showing up, even when it sucks. Because they know that the pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret lasts forever. When you live in discomfort long enough, you stop being scared of it. You start to see it as a tool. You start to crave it because you know it's where growth lives. Comfort kills drive. Discomfort builds it. Every time you put yourself in a situation that stretches you, physically, mentally, emotionally, you're expanding your range. You're increasing your capacity for life. The same situations that used to break you now barely shake you. The chaos that once made you panic now feels like just another challenge to overcome. That's freedom. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. There's peace in knowing you can survive without applause. There's freedom in waking up and doing the hard thing simply because you said you would. That's what real confidence is. Not fake positivity, not pretending everything's fine, but knowing deep down that you can rely on yourself. That's the kind of peace no one can give you or take away. And it only comes from discomfort. Every day, you have a choice. You can chase comfort or you can chase growth. You can keep seeking validation or you can build discipline. You can stay soft or you can get strong. Freedom doesn't live in the easy choices. It lives in the hard ones, the ones that force you to confront your weaknesses, to control your impulses, to dig deeper than you thought possible. Discomfort isn't something to avoid. It's something to master. Because the moment you stop running from it, you start unlocking the kind of freedom that can't be faked, bought, or borrowed. Audit your circle. That's not a suggestion. It's a necessity. The people you keep around you are either building you up or breaking you down, sharpening your edge or dulling it. You become a reflection of the energy you allow into your life. Most people don't even realize that the reason they're stuck, unmotivated, or doubting themselves is because of the company they keep. Energy is contagious. Attitudes are contagious. Discipline is contagious. But so is weakness. So is negativity. So is complacency. If you're surrounded by people who constantly play small, eventually you start shrinking too. You have to look at your circle like a mirror. Ask yourself, who around me pushes me to be better? Who around me holds me accountable? Who's willing to tell me the truth even when I don't want to hear it? And then ask the harder question. Who's keeping me comfortable? Who only shows up when it's convenient? Who gets uncomfortable when I start to grow because it reminds them that they're not? Those are the people you need to audit, because not everyone who's close to you deserves to be close to you. Some people only support you when you're beneath them. They like the version of you that's struggling, that's doubting, that's depending on them. The moment you start to rise, the energy changes. They start throwing subtle shades, small comments, little doubts. They'll tell you to slow down, to be realistic, to take it easy. They'll mask it as care, but it's fear. Fear that you're outgrowing them, fear that your growth exposes their stagnation. You can't let that energy stay around you because over time, it seeps into you. You start second guessing your ambition. You start apologizing for wanting more. You start shrinking your goals just to fit in with people who stopped dreaming a long time ago. Audit your circle like your life depends on it, because it does. If you spend time with people who complain all day, you'll start finding things to complain about. If you hang around people who make excuses, you'll start thinking excuses make sense. But if you surround yourself with people who demand more from themselves, who chase growth, who embrace discomfort, it forces you to level up. It forces you to stop being average. Iron sharpens iron, but only if both pieces are willing to collide. If your circle never challenges you, if they're always agreeing, always comfortable, that's not a circle. That's a cage. Growth requires friction. You need people who make you uncomfortable in the right way. People who look you in the eye and call out your laziness. People who won't let you settle for good enough. People who see your potential and refuse to let you waste it. That's real love. Not the kind that just tells you what you want to hear, but the kind that holds you to a higher standard. Too many people surround themselves with enablers instead of challengers. Enablers make you feel good. Challengers make you better. The truth is, you can't fly if you're chained to people who refuse to leave the ground. You can't build a champion's mindset in an environment full of quitters. The conversations you have daily are shaping your reality. If you're talking about other people more than you're talking about goals, you're in the wrong circle. If no one around you is uncomfortable with mediocrity, you're in the wrong circle. If your wins make them silent instead of inspired, you're in the wrong circle. You need people who clap for you when you succeed and push you harder when you start coasting. Audit your circle with the same discipline you use to train your body or mind. It's not about being arrogant. It's about protecting your focus, your drive, your energy. You can't elevate while carrying dead weight. Some people were meant to walk with you for a chapter, not the whole book. Let them go. That's not betrayal. That's survival. You can love people and still outgrow them. You can care about them and still choose to move forward without them, because your purpose has to come first. When you start surrounding yourself with people who are driven, disciplined, and focused, everything changes. Your standards rise, your habits shift, your mindset sharpens. You start thinking bigger, moving faster, believing deeper. You start becoming the kind of person that challenges others just by existing. That's what the right circle does. It multiplies your potential, but the wrong one drains it slowly, silently, until you forget who you were trying to become. Audit your circle often. Don't wait for people to show their loyalty when things go wrong. Pay attention to how they act when things go right. Watch how they respond when you start to elevate. Your circle should not be your comfort zone. It should be your catalyst. If everyone around you is comfortable, you're in the wrong room. The right people won't let you stay the same. They'll push you, test you, challenge you, and demand your best every single day. Build an inner standard, because if your value depends on what people think of you, you'll never have peace. You'll be pulled in every direction, chasing approval, constantly trying to prove yourself to people who don't even know what they want from their own lives. The truth is, when your self-worth is built on your own effort, no one can take it away. When you've earned your confidence through discipline, through pain, through consistent work, you become something different. You become solid. You become unshakable, unstoppable, untouchable. Most people don't have an inner standard. They live by reaction. They wait for validation to tell them who they are. If people praise them, they feel confident. If people criticize them, they collapse. That's not strength. That's dependency. That's emotional weakness disguised as confidence. Real strength comes from knowing that you don't need external permission to respect yourself. It comes from building an identity that's anchored in your own effort. You can't fake that. You can't post that. You can't buy that. You have to earn it every single day. Building an inner standard means you decide what's acceptable for you, how hard you work, how disciplined you are, how much effort you give, and you hold yourself accountable no matter who's watching. It's not about being perfect. It's about having non-negotiables. It's about looking at yourself and saying, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I show up. Because if you don't define your standards, the world will do it for you. And the world's standards are weak. The world says it's okay to quit. It's okay to slack off. It's okay to settle. But you know what's not okay? Wasting your potential because you're scared of being uncomfortable. When you build your self-worth from effort, you stop needing results to feel valuable. You stop tying your identity to wins and losses. You start to see yourself as the type of person who does the work regardless of the outcome. That's where power lives. In consistency, not applause. You don't need the world to clap for you when you know what it took to show up. You don't need someone to tell you you're doing great when you've already looked yourself in the mirror and know you didn't hold back. That's self-respect. That's real pride. Most people don't understand how dangerous it is to live without internal standards. Without them, you drift. You follow trends. You compare yourself to everyone else. You chase whatever gives you a quick hit of validation. But that kind of life feels hollow because you're never grounded. You're always looking outward for something that can only come from within. Building an inner standard changes that. It gives you direction when things get chaotic. It gives you stability when people doubt you. It gives you clarity when your emotions start to cloud your judgment. There will be days when you feel invisible, days when the effort doesn't pay off, days when no one sees the grind. That's where your inner standard keeps you steady, because you're not doing it for them. You're doing it because it's who you are. You're doing it because you refuse to lower your bar just to make life easier. That's how you separate yourself from the average. Average people need comfort to function. Strong people need purpose. And purpose doesn't come from comfort. It comes from work, from repetition, from holding yourself accountable, even when no one else will. When you live by your own standard, the world stops controlling you. Opinions don't shake you. Failure doesn't define you. Praise doesn't distract you. You move with focus. You operate from discipline, not emotion. You don't need motivation because you have identity, a deep knowing that this is what you do. This is who you are, and nothing can take that away. The outside world becomes background noise. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop chasing validation and start building conviction. Building an inner standard isn't glamorous. It's not about flashy success or public recognition. It's about doing the things no one sees. The early mornings, the late nights, the small daily wins that stack up into something unbreakable. It's about showing up for yourself, not because someone expects you to, but because you refuse to betray your own potential. It's about demanding excellence from yourself, even when there's no reward for it. Because the reward isn't external, it's internal. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you didn't cut corners, you didn't quit, and you didn't compromise. You build that standard one decision at a time. Every moment you choose discipline over comfort. Every time you do what's right instead of what's easy. Every time you give your best when no one's watching. That's another brick in your foundation. Eventually, it becomes who you are. It becomes automatic. You stop needing validation because your actions validate you. You stop searching for approval because your habits prove your worth. And that's the point. When you build an inner standard so strong that nothing external can shake it, you stop being controlled by the world and start controlling yourself.